deck in action. There you see the undefeated Jeremy Bertarioni, 11-0, taking on John Holland, playing Grixis Death Shadow. And I'm not going to lie, Craig, I like Grixis Death Shadow a lot in this metagame. I think it is a good foil to Urza. I don't know how it holds up to this new version, I will say that.
Yeah, Oko just solves so many problems for the deck, right? Normally a Death Shadow would come down and it would get huge, and the Urza decks can't really punish the Death Shadow player for paying all of this life for spells. And the potential for that double striking, trampling huge Death Shadow was always a threat to finish off the game in one attack.
Absolutely.
Now, you just turn it into an elk, and you don't worry about it for the rest of the game.
Just good, clean magic. Using Planeswalker abilities as written. Nothing to joke about, Craig. It's just, that's what the card does. It's not interesting. There's nothing special about it.
Wait, we're done with the elk jokes?
I told you we are done with the elk jokes.
I did not believe
yesterday.
you. Yeah, I didn't believe you.
Today, it's just another Planeswalker ability.
We're going to see. This is a long day ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm like twitching right now.
I know.
Trying.
You said elk so many times yesterday.
I set the record for elks in a broadcast.
Yeah, I asked our engineer to keep track, but he told me to shut up. Right. So that didn't happen. Well, that's interesting that he took the...
Metallic Rebuke.
Yeah, I really thought one of the artifact payoff cards was going to be the choice here.
Yeah, very interesting. Arkham's Astrolabe. Going to come down, draw a card. APT's very high on this Simic Urza deck. 2 spells despite only 1 mana. Drawing lots of cards. Activating lots of abilities.
Do you have APT like TM? Like we got to put the little trademark thing on there?
Yep, that's mine.
Patent pending.
Yep. Copy of the Royal Scions in John Holland's Grixis Death Shadow deck. I'm starting to see that pop up in some places. I buy it. Seems like a worthwhile inclusion.
Yeah, the filtering is real. It only costs 3 mana to get it on the board. The pump to get aggressive with some of your creatures is very relevant. And then it gets to the ultimate faster than you think.
Totally agree, Craig. Here's Emery, Lurker of the Loch. Gonna go ahead and bin a few cards. Spellbomb now in the graveyard is a potential target for Emery in the future. Of course, Mishra's Bauble, very close to being cashed in. And here's Engineered Explosives on 1. Just get it down preemptively.
Yep.
You know what this Grixis Death Shadow deck is all about.
Yeah, you're never going to get an angler with the Engineered Explosives. So you might as well set it up to get that Death Shadow.
Here's a Dismember on Emery. We talked about how many different angles these Urza decks pressure you from. You have to answer Emery, you have to answer Urza, you have to answer the combo, you have to answer any kind of War of Invention type prison elements they might look to include. Grixis Death Shadow does a good job of putting speed blocks in front of everyone. Combination of Thoughtseize, Stubborn Denial, Inquisition of Kozilek. All these things play very nicely together to say no matter what your opponent is doing, you have some ways to interact with it.
Yeah, it's all about just the right mix of answers and threats to interact with the opponent.
Colligan's Command in post-board games is another one. Here we see Gurmag Angler. John Holland with the right threat. 5/5 going to come down. Dodge Engineered Explosives.
Love the artwork on Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, that's a good one. Spooky zombie fish. Very in theme with the Halloween season. I might go dressed as a zombie fish this Halloween. Here we see Oko, Thief of Crowns. A totally unremarkable planeswalker.
How many people would know what you were?
I would. Halloween is for you, Craig. It's not about what people think of your costume. It's about enjoying your costume.
What do you mean, what am I? I'm a zombie fish.
Zombie fish. Isn't it clear? Oko going to go ahead and use one of its Planeswalker activated abilities, turn Gurmag Angler into a 3/3 elk. Nothing notable or interesting about that. Just what the Planeswalker does.
Just everywhere you go, people are like, oh, I get it. Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, zombie fish.
Yeah.
Awesome.
just every bar and a friend's gathering or whatever. They all know.
See, here's your mistake, Craig. You're assuming I'm leaving my house for Halloween. I will be just dressing up like a zombie fish alone, quietly.
Do you get trick-or-treaters at your place?
No, we didn't get any trick-or-treaters last year. Nowhere I've ever lived has gotten trick-or-treaters. And, like, I do live in a neighborhood with some kids.
So what I'm picturing is Brian sitting at home.
Right.
Bowls of candy all around him.
Yes.
Dressed up as a zombie fish. Just kind of very sad look. All by myself playing on the radio in the background.
See, here's where...
And you just lamenting that you have no young children to appreciate your great Halloween outfit.
Here's where you're wrong, Craig. This sounds like a great Halloween, and I would not be sad. Everything else, spot on. Music choice, sure. Surrounded by bowls of candy, sure. But I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time.
Nice. The lone fish.
Yes. Solitary zombie fish.
What happens if someone shows up dressed as Oko and they can just ruin your outfit at any point?
I will say nice Planeswalker costume. I enjoy Magic the Gathering and make no jokes and just appreciate Oko for what it is.
But they're like, bam, you're no longer a zombie fish.
Are you alluding to one of Oko's many activated abilities?
Yes.
Interesting.
Brian Gottlieb, the elk.
Well, if that's how they want to use that ability on that turn, they may do so, Craig.
Just ruins your party.
That's the way the card was intended to function. What can you say? Oko +2ing on this turn, going to make some food. And Jeremy Bertarioni going to go ahead and cast War of Invention. Looks like X is 2 here.
Yeah, I don't think John can let this resolve if he has a denial in his hand.
John does have Stubborn Denial. We're going to go ahead and cast that. Death Shadow is large enough to give that ferocious activation. Looks like Stubborn Denial is going to resolve. Bertarioni with just 1 card in hand. But Oko on the battlefield. For how long is the question? Bertarioni going to go ahead and fetch.
Yeah, I like sacrificing the fetch land here. If you pass the turn and then try to blow up the explosives on the opponent's turn, you run into potential problems. When you sacrifice your fetch land, maybe a Colgan's command from the other side just blows up the engineered explosives when you don't have access to your 2 mana.
Mystic Sanctuary. Going to be the grab. Did he put anything on top? I don't think he did.
He didn't, and I think that's what he's saying now.
Yeah, I think he's trying to do it now.
I've had this happen to me where you plan out your turn, you know that you're going to make 3 or 4 different actions, and you just move past one of them.
APT is very high for Simic Wurza.
And they're asking the head judge here.
Yeah. I think this is missed. I mean, Jeremy cracked his engineered explosives.
Yeah, obviously we'll see how the judges rule this. But it is interesting that clearly he got it because he wanted to put one of his cards on top of his library.
Yeah, just shortcutting a little bit. So we're taking a look at engineered explosives. Just explaining things, walking through the exact timing. What do you think about how this game stands right now, Craig? And does it hinge on whether the judge allows this War of Invention to go back on the top of Jeremy Bertarioni's deck?
So that's an important card. It's a very valuable card, but I think we're still at a point in the game where it can swing into either player's favor. We're pretty close to parity. It looks like he's getting the Whir on top.
I am surprised by that.
Well, it's possible he said something when he searched for the Mystic Sanctuary.
And just didn't move it there?
And just didn't take the game action.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, saying something like trigger.
Well, it's also possible that we just haven't moved far along enough in the game state.
See, that is a bridge I think we've crossed by activating the engineered explosives. But we don't know all the specifics of the timing there. The important thing is that War of Invention has ended back on top of the library. But look at this. John Holland has an answer.
Yeah, I like
Thought
that.
Scour you. Send Word of Invention to the bin. That 3/3 elk going to go ahead and go after Oko. And we have a Teamer Battle Rage to give it double strike. And Oko's off the battlefield. This means Jeremy Bertarioni playing off basically the top of the deck. One more card in hand.
Yeah, not a ton of stuff in play.
Can't quite pick out what that card is in Bertarioni's hand.
But also, I mean, John doesn't have a ton of pressure. Just one 3/3 creature that he's working with right now.
Very true.
So Jeremy still has a lot of time here.
Very true. And Gilded Goose going to be deployed by Bertarioni. Has to play Breeding Pool on tap to cast that, interestingly.
Sure, it gets the life right back if he sacrifices the food, though.
Sure. Yeah, no big deal. Just interesting at this stage in the game, no green source available. This 3/3 elk is going to go to work, but Gilded Goose can keep up with that on its own, which is very weird, by the way, that Goose is able to negate this kind of offense.
Yeah, Goose is a powerful creature.
It is. It really is. I think it's still a little bit underappreciated. I know there's people who have slept on this card who think it just wholly relies on its synergies with Oko, Wicked Wolf. That is true to some extent. But you see scenarios like this where Goose is still accomplishing something, and in fact, seems to be drawing a fatal push here.
Yeah, and all of these extra food tokens turning on the Mox Opal as well.
Right. So that Goose generated 6 virtual life and 8 a fatal push. Not bad for your 1-mana accelerant. Bertarioni well and truly out of gas right now.
Yeah, I think he has the option to sacrifice his fetch land and get another copy of Mystic Sanctuary.
Okay. May see that here. Gonna go ahead and cash in one of these food tokens. Bertarioni just gonna draw here. What do you think about that, Craig?
Well, there's the potential that he milled the other. I believe he has 2 copies in his main deck of the Mystic Sanctuary.
I think that's right.
Potentially one got milled off the Emery early in the game. I'm not 100% on that.
Yeah, I don't see it, but I don't know that we can see every card in the graveyard right now, so that is possible.
But there's also the possibility where we have just a KG back and forth going. If John has a Snapcaster Mage in his hand, he can, use a Thought Scour to break up a Mystic Sanctuary,
right?
Putting a juicy card on top.
Yeah, maybe Bertarioni just looking for a better window. John Holland going to bauble himself with those fetch lands at the ready. You can understand why.
Just 0 mana deck manipulation.
Yeah, love it. Gurmagel continues to fight. 3 damage negated by food.
And there is a Snapcaster Mage there.
Good patience on that Snapcaster Mage by John Holland. A lot of times you think you want to get some extra pressure, just convert it into a card with Thought Scour. John Holland really wants to maximize that Snapcaster Mage, and I like it.
Yeah, I would say a lot of patience out of both these players.
Agreed. So that fetch grabs a Watery Grave. Still not pulling the trigger on any Mystic Sanctuary shenanigans. Again, we don't know if there's still a copy left in the deck. Heading back to Jeremy's turn. Holland draws from the bauble. Bertarioni finds Cryptic Command. A versatile card. Not exactly sure what it's going to get up to at this stage. Looks like another Snapcaster Mage was the draw there. It has double Thoughtseize at the ready as well, does John Holland. Ask Bertarioni how many cards in hand. Bertarioni says 2. Gurmag Elk gets in for 3. Bertarioni falls to 3.
John being very patient with those Thoughtseizes as well, which I can appreciate. He's at 6 life, so between his fetch lands and those Thoughtseizes, there's only so many spells that utilize his life total that he can use for the rest of this game.
Absolutely. Bertarioni catches in that last piece of food. Now at a real 6 life. No more food rolled up here. And John just passes the turn, forcing Bertarioni to just go ahead and fire that cryptic command at end of turn. Holland going to have access to Snapcaster Mage Stubborn Denial, but that Stubborn Denial not turned on because the Gurmag Angler only a 3/3.
And Elk is just not big enough.
All right. Who would have thought? And that means Gurmag Angler is going to go back to hand. Bertarioni going to draw a card. And now we crack the Flooded Strand. And maybe now all that patience gets rewarded. Let's see. Here is Mystic Sanctuary. That is going to trigger Cryptic Command on top of the deck. Let's see if that spurs a response from John Holland.
Yeah, just great patience from John here.
Yeah. I like the way both players have played this game. Here is that Snapcaster Mage. Here is Thought Scour. John draws a card. And Bertarioni loses that Cryptic Command off the top of the deck. Bertarioni finds an Astrolabe. Going to replace itself immediately. Urza, Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble in hand.
Urza, big draw.
Urza changes things so quickly for this deck. Here's a Mishra's Bauble. I will mention we have a Fatal Push in the graveyard on John Holland's side, as well as another Snapcaster Mage in hand. So, here comes Urza. Do we want to get up to some responses here? Here comes Matthias.
Yeah, John saying he's going to respond to the trigger here.
John going to fall to 2 to do this.
This is ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, I just don't know if he had to fall to 2 here. I don't think the construct being in play makes a huge difference for what Jeremy's able to do.
Yeah, still going to get an Urza activation should he want it. Looks like we are going to respond to that Snapcaster with Urza. You understand why now that Cryptic's in the deck. Shuffle, little cut. Let's reveal that top card. Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Good card.
New Planeswalker, printed, of course, in Throne of Eldraine. Here comes Matthias onto the battlefield. Mox Opal, going to replace the old Mox Opal. 3/3 Elk. Mox Elk, pretty good. And now the turn passes back to John Holland. This is a good game of Magic. I am enjoying this one, Craig.
Yeah, I wonder if John could have preserved a few extra points of life total there. You know, waited till his own turn and then executed that play.
I guess the question is he going to find something to spend mana on this turn?
Yeah, that's the big thing is the mana is such an important resource, and if he can use most of it every turn, he wants to do that.
The Royal Scions coming down for John Holland. That's going to plus. Get him a look at a fresh card. Going to pitch that Thoughtseize. Can't use that anymore.
Yeah, let's dial up that Royal Scions. That's a card that we've talked about from time to time, but we haven't seen it on camera a whole lot.
Another new Throne of Eldraine Planeswalker. Maybe overshadowed by some of the other Planeswalkers in the set, but it's a 3-mana Planeswalker +1, draw a card, discard a card. +1, target creature gains +2/0 and gains first strike. And trample until end of turn.
Yeah.
-8, draw 4 cards. When you do, Royal Scion deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand.
And I think the trample is the big part of this, where you can give your Death Shadow trample.
Ooh, big draw there for Jeremy Bertarioni. I think that was a Cryptic Command.
If it was, he's probably just going to win this game. He has the option of turning that Angler into an Elk, which turns off Stubborn Denials.
Right.
And then he can tap down the opponent's team with the Cryptic Command.
I like that line.
And he has 2 attackers, so even a removal spell out of John wouldn't save him.
It's aggressive. And the question is, does Jeremy feel like he has to get that aggressive? There are safer lines, I think. We know that line would be good here. But there are safer lines. I think Jeremy sees it the way you do, Craig. 3/3 Elk. Let's see what the follow-up is here. I'll also say there's a possibility it's not Cryptic Command. I have to make that read really quickly. Always want to keep that in mind. So Bertarioni just going to pass. Draws from Mishra's Bauble. Now we're back to John Holland's turn. I saw a Temur Battle Rage in hand. That in combination with the Royal Scions.
It's funny to see this late game construct on the board and have very few artifacts around to power it up.
Yeah. I would say this has been an atypical game from Simic Wurza. We're just going to plus draw and discard mode here for the Royal Scions. Thoughtseize again, headed to the bin. Not very useful.
Yeah, as you said when the game started, though, that the Grixis Death Shadow deck has just that right mix of threats, removal, discard, counter spells, and we see him just carefully navigating in a way to not get into too much trouble.
Mm-hmm. Fatal Push in hand for John Holland. Sequencing of spells, so important now. Timing of those spells, so important now. Big taps here, 5 mana. Oh boy. Street Wraith, hard cast. And this is the window Bertarioni was waiting for. Cryptic Command, that's easy mode right there, Craig. You know you're completely safe. Going to go ahead, use that, tap down the squad. And that means Jeremy Bertarioni takes down a very interesting game 1. I want to point out there were other angles for John Holland to take there. I'm not saying this was the wrong decision. I'm just saying there's a world where he can move to combat, see if Jeremy does anything at that point. You could then attack with everything. Fatal Push in the pre-combat phase still.
Yep.
Right? And see what that does for Jeremy's defense, to see if he Cryptic Commands to that. Then you have that Temur Battle Range possibly rolled up. I don't know. There were a lot of choices to be made on that last turn.
There were 100 options, even with the Royal Scions.
Right.
Instead of filtering a card, you could potentially just tick it up on one of your attackers. Like you were saying, he still has the Temur Battle Rage rolled up in his hand as a potential stealing the game away that way.
Right. It was interesting. I don't know if Jeremy was ever going to let John go to combat. I think there's a very good chance that Cryptic was going to top down the team at some point.
Sure.
But a lot of different branching paths that game could have taken. Overall, an excellent game. Really exciting stuff there in game 1. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at sideboards here. We'll start over on Bertarioni's side. You see 3 Damping Sphere, 2 Thoughtseize, 2 Nile Spellbomb, 2 Fatal Push, 1 Collective Brutality, 1 Ensnaring Bridge, 1 Pithing Needle, a Plague Engineer, an Assassin's Trophy, and then finally a Drown in the lock. Craig, what do you want to do on the Simic Wurza side?
So this is kind of interesting because I like the Nile Spellbombs here. They're just such a free roll where they cycle and the opponent's graveyard is such an important resource to them. But I also like the Drown in the Lock, which you're kind of countering with your own Nile Spellbomb. Mm-hmm. But the opponent is often putting so many cards in their graveyard that you're going to get just really good utility out of the Drown in the Lock. I like those 2 cards. I think the Fatal Push is a very clean answer. So I can see those coming in. but potentially with all your engineered explosives, you don't need the fatal pushes.
Okay.
So, and then there's a question of, do you want a card like Ensnaring Bridge, which can jam up the opponent when you know they're going to be bringing in some artifact removal to answer a card like that?
Like I keep saying, when we see the Simic Urza deck in action, it asks an opponent to account for so much. There's so many angles Bertarioni can take right now, and John Holland is going to have to find the right responses to all those angles. Why don't we head over to John's side, see what he's working with. There you see 3 copies of Collective Brutality, 2 Culligan's Command, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Plague Engineer, 2 Damping Sphere, 1 more Royal Scions, and finally a Mystical Dispute. Craig, what do you like on John's side?
I actually like a lot of these cards.
Me too.
Jeremy's deck is almost mono blue, so the Mystical Dispute is going to be a 1-mana counterspell that has a lot of juicy targets to it. We see people bring in Plague Engineer a lot as a preemptive way of shutting down Thopter tokens. The Disdainful Strokes are kind of an interesting card, and the Colligan's Commands are just definite windmill slams.
Absolutely. Well, Craig, we're starting to get our invitational meta figured out. I expect Simic Urza to be a big part of it. And if you want to play in the invitational, if you're not qualified yet, still a chance. You can head to go.starcitygames.com/IQ. Check out the IQs in your area. Of course, all these IQs come with $1,000 to the top 8. You get those invitational qualifications that matter so much. SCG points always on the line at IQs. There's a top 8 playmat, and you get to snag those sweet personality tokens at every single IQ. Make sure you head over to go.starcitygames.com/IQ to learn more.
That's a sweet playmat.
Yeah, I like that one.
You think that's a giant?
I have no idea, Craig. I don't speculate on the nature of these mystical creatures. I let them identify however they choose to. If it tells me it's a giant, I will respect it as a giant.
Wow, you really took that a different direction there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get when you ask me to open my mouth, Craig. Literal anything could fall out at any point in time.
This is my fault, is what you're saying.
Yes, that is exactly my point. Mishra's Bauble on turn 1 for John Holland. Gilded Goose on turn 1 for Jeremy Bertarioni. John Holland going to respond with Fatal Push. Not letting the goose be loose. Mishra's Bauble comes down for Bertarioni, and the turn gets passed back to John Holland.
Yeah, John had a Teamer Battle Rage in his hand. That's one of those... That's the card I'm often on the fence about the most out of the Death Shadow decks post-board, because the games where it's bad, it is so bad.
Right.
But the games where it steals the game, there's almost no other card that would have done that for you.
Huge amount of variance inherent in Teamer Battle Rage. Thoughtseize from John Holland. Going to go ahead and take a look at what Jeremy Bertarioni is working with. It's like Plague Engineer made the cut for Bertarioni.
It has Death Touch. I guess it trades with any attacker.
Yeah.
I'm still a little surprised just because at 3 mana, it's pretty expensive.
It is. You can keep those Snapcaster Mages off the battlefield, I guess. It's decent. They've usually already done their thing by that point, but we'll see. We'll see if Bertarioni can leverage those Plague Engineers. Maybe just has the problem dealing with the big bad body of Gurmag Angler. Look, you can't engineer explosives. That's your main method of dealing with things. I say that as Oko gets revealed as part of this Emery Mill.
Oko is really just a solution to every problem.
Really is. Thought Scour. This time, John Holland targets himself. Gonna go ahead, take a draw. Dismember on Emery. You're so incentivized to have removal for every single threat that Urza plays at this point. Even the Gilded Goose has the opportunity to spiral out of control.
Yeah, those extra food tokens that just accumulate on the board end up being such valuable resources. Obviously, the life total is always waiting to be cashed in, but also just as an enabler for your Mox, as mana later through Urza. card does a ton. They get turned into elk.
Yeah. There's Plague Engineer, followed up by Mishra's Bauble. Plague Engineer naming Human. Human is the name for Plague Engineer. That is, of course, going to shut down those Snapcaster mages from entering the battlefield. Still able to trade with Gurmag Angler or a large Death Shadow, of course. Looking over at John Holland's hand, don't see a whole lot going on. It looks like Mystical Dispute, Stubborn Denial, Teamer, Battle Rage, Thoughtseize. Really missing a threat here is John Holland. Is going to be able to get that Urza out of Bertarioni's hand. It's kind of nice. I mean, we did have the Mystical Dispute ready.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. If he has a non-blue threat here that you would want to counter, John does not have the mana up this turn to do it.
All right, here comes Plague Engineer. John going to fall to a precarious 5 already. Maybe this is another reason why you like Plague Engineer as well. It's just like at some point, the damage will matter.
It's just another attacker.
Yeah, and it looks good here too. I mean, like, you need to answer this Death Shadow for sure. Being able to take a defensive posture with your Plague Engineer is important. Teamer Battle Rage, though, at the ready.
Yeah, I mean, this is what the Death Shadow deck does when it does its thing. Is like it looks like it's in a tough spot, but then it deploys a Death Shadow and it's able to defend it for 1 mana.
Ooh, look at this exchange, Craig. Cryptic Command in response to that Death Shadow, but we know what John Holland is working with. He's tapping a blue. You got to go Mystical Dispute here, right? Stubborn Denial.
Well, if you're worried about a potential second Urza,
okay,
you cannot Stubborn Denial that card.
That is true.
But if you're worried about Engineered Explosives,
okay, so there's
you wanted to play it the other way.
There's a give and take. You can make defensible positions for both cards, I believe. Here's Plague Engineer. Thinking about making an attack? No. Gonna stay on defense. How big can we make this Death Shadow on this turn? I was just thinking from the perspective of you want to set up.
Big.
Yeah, 2 damage, very huge here for John Holland. I was thinking wanting to set up Death Shadow, huge attacker, Teamer Battle Rage, Stubborn Denial with protection.
Yes. The Mystical Dispute is similar protection. I can't imagine you don't cast your Teamer Battle Rage here.
Yeah, I agree with you. 2 mana tapped.
And this is lethal.
Teamer Battle Rage. Bertarioni going to gain some life.
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about the onboard food.
Yep, goes to 20.
Almost lethal.
Almost lethal. Bertarioni is going to fall to 2 here and lose that Plague Engineer. Now a Death Shadow rolled up for John Holland as well. But just going to pass the turn. Wants to hold up that Mystical Dispute instead.
Yeah, Jeremy going to be able to get a Sanctuary here.
Is that going to put Cryptic Command on top?
I would imagine so.
I mean, that's the game if it does,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Unless that last card in hand is a land. Mystical Dispute 2 or 3?
3.
3, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cryptic Command is going to go on top. Bertarioni draws that. Bertarioni now at 1. Can't even crack that fetch land.
And these are the games where I just get so impressed by the Death Shadow deck because it just uses every resource, right? He only has 3 lands in play. He's cast not a bajillion spells, but a lot of spells. He's got this massive creature in play, and he's had discard, removal, and counter spells all available to him for that 1 mana.
Yeah, able to do it all. Well, Bertarioni is going to try this Cryptic Command, but John Holland, Mystical Dispute at the ready, and that means we're headed to a Game 3, and I'm happy we're going to a Game 3. These have been tight.
Yeah, I want to see more
games.
of this.
Yeah. This might become a staple matchup of the modern format, Craig. It would not surprise me if we see a lot more of this going forward. John Holland with an impressive performance thus far today, making a good case for Grixis Death Shadow. Bertarioni, of course, the last undefeated player in the tournament. This breakout Simic Urza deck putting itself on the map this weekend at SCG Atlanta. Also putting itself on the map, Karnock's Gaming Chairs, by making the most comfy chair you can possibly imagine. They've got our back. 10% at checkout saved when you visit karnocks.com/SCG.
You know what they say.
What do they say, Craig?
Even an elk enjoys a Karnock's gaming chair.
It's true. I've heard that phrase so many times throughout my life. Just constantly. And in places I wouldn't expect it, too. Like, it was said all the time in the legal field when I was doing that.
Yep.
Back when I used to bartend all the time, people would come in, be like, an elk loves a Karnock's gaming chair. I don't even remember what you said anymore. I'm just going to take a nap. Sit out the rest of this round. You got this,
I knew I would break you eventually.
Oh, it doesn't take much.
Yeah, just, I mean...
A light push sends me
You were
crumbling.
trying to be strong. Yesterday, you tried to get all the elk out of your system.
Right.
You walk in today,
Right.
you know, just a sharp, bright-eyed young human. Couple hours...
I don't know if any of those things apply to me presently.
Couple hours later, though, boom, elk.
Right. It's just a matter of time. Now, this match has rejuvenated my love for Oko. I have appreciated all the decisions being made on both sides thus far. Even the Oko decisions have been interesting.
Oh, what a ridiculous card.
No, it's just a regular Planeswalker. About 15 and a half minutes left on the clock for this Game 3. Should be enough time.
Oh, it should be plenty. I think each of these players are playing carefully at this point, but I believe both of them have the ability to speed it up a little bit if it's necessary.
Mm-hmm. Player's going to go ahead and draw some openers here. Double Dismember, land, some other upside down spells. Looks like 3 land, Double Dismember, Colligan's Command, and a blue spell, Snapcaster Mage. Good against some hands, pretty mediocre against some others.
Yeah, the problem is if what Jeremy is doing is deploying potentially like a turn 2 Oko, this hand is not good against that.
No.
But if he plays Emery, this hand is great.
Yeah, I think John thought about it. Ultimately, wasn't convinced that hand had what it takes. I agree.
Yeah, I like the mulligan decision there. The removal is important, but I think you need more cheap interaction in other ways as well.
Yep. Also, the London Mulligan just incentivizes mulliganing so much. Such good odds of crafting a very solid 6. There's so many more good 6s now than there used to be.
Yeah, you look at that hand, you're like, yeah, I could play a game of Magic with this hand. And with the old rule, you're like, if I mulligan, is my average 6-card hand going to be better than this?
Right.
But now it's just, all right, I get 7.
And I get to sculpt a little bit. And this hand, this 6 just looks better. Thoughtseize, Royal Scions, Dismember.
Yep.
Basically able to deal with a lot of the same things except plus turn 1 disruption. Bertarioni going to start with a little fetching here. Polluted Delta, probably going to grab Craig's favorite land on the planet.
Underground Sea?
No, Breeding Pool. Look at that.
I guess that's close. Sure, Breeding Pool is my favorite land.
Sure.
You called it again.
Oh, you know what they say. Even an elk's wrong twice a day.
There's a lot of elk sayings out there.
Turns out. Turn 1 Gilded Goose. Snapcaster Mage is the draw for John Holland. Does this goose survive? Or is the goose loose?
Yeah, I can't imagine this goose makes it through the turn. Although if John only has one removal spell, you might say, all right, it's more important for me to sit on this in case there's an Emery in the hand.
Yeah.
He's leading with Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I think this is going to force John's hand a little bit. But ultimately, that leaves Bertarioni with a few spells that can't be cast quite yet. Can get that Engineered Explosives on the battlefield, for sure.
Yeah, I can't imagine the take here is not the Oko.
Seems like a slam dunk to me. Yup. Couple of 4-drops now. John Holland would love to find something like Mystical Dispute. Really throw a wrench in Bertarioni's plans.
Yes, but with that information, that John has, I think he's incentivized to, kill the goose here and just slow his opponent down.
I think you're right.
I'm a little surprised to see the explosives there out of Jeremy instead of deploying another food.
Interesting. Yeah, I'd kind of zeroed in as explosives on my play, but I could see the point for a goose activation as well.
Yeah, you get the food and you still have the explosives in your hand as a resource for whenever you want it.
You could always fear a second Thoughtseize, though. It's very plausible range of outcomes. Second Thoughtseize into like Death Shadow. But then you just play Urza. I'm coming around to your way of thinking.
Look at John slow down on the life loss just a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. Bertarioni finds Watery Grave in his Simic deck. Tisk, tisk.
What are you trying to say, Brian?
I'm not trying to say anything, Craig. I told you. You put up the deck name, I read it.
Oh, Mox Opal would have just been huge this turn.
Absolutely. We've been able to deploy Urza, hold up Cryptic Command, whatever Bertarioni chose. But now, a little bit of a window for John Holland. Going to go ahead and cycle Street Wraith. Fall to 13, gets a fresh draw. You know there's a Royal Scions in hand. May want to prioritize getting that onto the battlefield. Looks like another Thoughtseize is going to be the play here.
And this is an interesting decision. We'll see if he thinks the Cryptic Command or the Urza is more important to take.
Mystic Sanctuary now in hand.
Yeah.
Does have Dismember for the Urza.
Yes, he has the Dismember, but the Urza obviously leaves behind that Construct.
Yeah, it comes with value.
Which is a definite consideration here in this decision.
Also a Snapcaster Mage in hand. Is going to take the Cryptic Command here. Plays Polluted Delta, passes the turn. Bertarioni takes a draw. Finds Engineered Explosives again. Gonna go ahead and crack this fetch land. Now I think we're gonna see Craig's favorite land. There it is.
There it is.
Full art, snow-covered island. Enters the battlefield. I assume Mystic Sanctuary will be next. There it is. Trigger, Cryptic Command on top of the library. Tap Sanctuary, and it's Urza time.
Yeah, and I like Jeremy just jamming here. He's saying you could have a Mystical Dispute, but that card is going to be good against me for the rest of the game.
Right.
So let me play my spell now while you have as few cards as possible, and the opponent does not have the dispute there.
Yeah, look at this. John Holland shifting gears a bit. I think looking to preserve life total now.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to kill the Urza, but that leaves the Construct on the board. He potentially is going to take an attack or two from it.
Mm-hmm. Here is that Dismember. Paying 1 black via Watery Grave. Now John takes a draw. Snapcaster Mage at the ready. Can Fatal Push that token if he sees fit. Knows Cryptic Command is coming back.
Yeah, this is his window to do what he wants to do before he's got to worry about that Cryptic Command.
Royal Scion's going to be the play. It's going to plus. Draw and discard for John Holland. Gurmag Angler, land, Snapcaster
what a
Mage.
decision here.
Yeah, he's going to pitch the Snapcaster Mage and just get that Gurmag Angler onto the battlefield.
I don't blame him.
Working with perfect information right now is John Holland. Knows what the draw is next turn.
And you saw him last turn, he almost tutored up the swamp, changed his mind, got the basic island, which means this turn he can get the swamp instead of a shock land, save that extra life, and get the angler onto the board.
Yeah, good little decision by John Holland. I guess John doesn't have perfect information. He doesn't know Jeremy's last card. We know Engineered Explosives, correct?
Correct.
John does take advantage of this window to stick Gurmag Angler onto the battlefield.
Yeah, that was a big turn.
Passes the turn over to Bertarioni.
And Angler's almost the perfect threat here. Even if it gets bounced, he has plenty of mana and the card filtering to redeploy it.
Yeah, and I think we're getting right to it on Bertarioni's side. Bounce Angler. Draw a card. Draw was not quite sure. Oko.
Oh, it's kind of a tease, that Oko.
E on 0 just to get this construct a bit bigger, and John Holland going to fall to 3. I don't know that it is, Craig. I mean, that might just present the lethal attacker
Oh, sure.
that Bertarioni needs. John Holland takes a draw. Teamer Battle Rage Fatal Push.
Oh, man.
That's a big draw. And do we have a big enough graveyard to deploy?
This is a great finish to this game, the back and forth here. Oh, he's going to fatal push now. He's not even going to try to rope-a-dope the opponent into an attack.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting spot for sure. Maybe that's not Oko. Ensnaring Bridge. That might be Drown in the Lock.
Okay.
That's possible. But this Ensnaring Bridge coming down at an opportune time.
Yeah, I mean, this is just crazy back and forth, this game.
So John plus Royal Scions targeting Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, he must really like the card in his hands.
Yeah. What's the ordering on Royal Scions? Do you have to discard first? Draw a card, then discard a card. Huh. Here's Ether Spellbomb from Bertarioni. This is kind of a new addition to these Urza decks. An unsummon in artifact form. Not bad. Royal Scions ready to ultimate now. 8 counters. Draw 4 cards. When you do, Royal Scions deals damage to any target equal to the number of cards in your hand. Is it go time? No. Plussing again on Gurmag Angler. Pass the turn back.
There is a definite argument to be made for just cycling here. Your graveyard is such an important resource. You have Snapcaster Mages in your deck. You've got other Gurmag Anglers. I think you want to be filtering.
Inclined to agree, Craig. John Holland doesn't feel that way, though.
Yeah, even if you've got the best 2 cards in your deck in your hand, you just want those resources in your graveyard.
Speaking of cycling, so we're going to cycle that Ether Spellbomb. Not using the unsummon mode. Here's Emery. No immediate impact from that Emery, but long-term could present a problem.
Yeah, that's an important card.
Bunch of artifacts head to the graveyard. Lots of fodder for Emery available. But now you can get a Royal Scions ult
and leave it on the board.
Leave it on the battlefield. And this is a huge amount of damage this Royal Scions represents.
Yeah, the question, okay, he's going after the opponent.
Okay, gonna let Emery live. Draw 4 cards. Looks like damage to Bertarioni.
Kaboom!
7, I believe. More importantly, full grip for John Holland right now. Thought Scour at the ready. John targets himself. Mishra's Bauble the draw. Thoughtseize in hand. Temur Battle Rage. Holland's going to bobble Bertarioni. Getting worried about that clock, Greg.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're in a situation, both the players are at low enough life totals where...
Oh, this game can end in a flash, for sure.
One attack could do it, but we're definitely in a situation where the ensnaring bridge clogging up the board is an issue.
Emery can rebuy that Spell Bomb if it gets to go to its next turn. I think that's an interesting interaction to keep an eye on. And Bertarioni going to cash in some food now, it looks like. Takes a look at Holland's top card of his library.
Each player's got tons of information about the other player.
Yep. A couple cards being drawn.
Man, this has been a great match.
All right, I'm going to point something out. I don't know if there's any way John Holland knows the exact context of Bertarioni's deck, but if that is a Drown in the Lock, and John Holland is playing around that card by not getting too many cards in the graveyard so the Gurmag Angler can't be destroyed with Drown in the Lock.
Well, we saw kind of the next level play where both players were playing around the Mystic Sanctuary and the Snapcaster Mage in game one. So it's potential we're in the same situation here, in which case it's just very impressive play.
Yeah, I agree. Emery going to go ahead and activate on that Ether Spellbomb.
What a great card to get back to.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just such an insurance policy to have that on the board, and then you can cycle it whenever you want as well.
Yeah, I think you have to answer Emery and Ensnaring Bridge to be able to mount an offense in this game. And John, with so many resources right now, usually Grixis Death Shadow gets to this point of the game and they're so resource starved. You expect with this much access to cards, just card quantity, you can find something to do. Here is Drown in the Lock.
That is the Drown in the Lock.
It's going to counter that Inquisition. John says, okay. Royal Science Plus. Draw a card and discard. And there you see, we're now in turn 0 of turns.
Gotta find a K command.
Here's another Gurmag Angler.
Can't miss those turn counters.
Gonna go ahead and use that Spell Bomb, return one of the Gurmag Anglers to hand for John Holland.
Wait.
It's like still at end of turn here.
I gotta kill this Emery.
Snapcaster Mage. Fatal Push. Metallic Rebuke.
Oh, man.
Emery will stay on the battlefield.
Brian, I want a resolution to this game.
Bertarioni draws Craig's favorite card in all of Magic, Full Art Snow-Covered Island. I don't know if you're going to get it, Craig.
I don't know if I am either.
Bertarioni just going to play that island. Assuming we're activating Emery one more time.
Seems like Jeremy's thinking about not getting the Spell Bomb this turn.
Yeah, maybe looking for a card instead. Can do both, right?
Yeah, I think the Spell Bomb is just easily the safest thing that you can be doing. The question is, does Jeremy want to take a different line, get the card this turn, and potentially build towards winning the game?
Yeah. Like Bertarioni tapping a bunch of mana here. Maybe thinking about an engineered explosives. Is there an engineered explosives in the yard? Trying to get E on 3, possibly. It looks like it's just going to be spell bomb.
This is the safest line to be taking.
And pass the turn, yeah. Bertarioni also incentivized to play towards a draw, quite frankly. I mean, I think a draw in his position is just fantastic.
You mean at 11-0?
Yeah.
Sure.
Three mana tapped. Colligan's Command. Kill Emery and Ensnaring Bridge.
Oh, man.
That was a big one. Now we have to think about what to do with this Royal Scions. I think it's going to be doing some pumping here.
Yeah, we got to deal some damage, right?
Yeah, make that Snapcaster Mage bigger. And get to work. These two creatures rumbling in. Ether Spellbomb gonna bounce Gurmag Angler, of course. But 4 damage headed Bertarioni's way. Falls to 7. Double Stubborn Denial at the ready, but no 4-power creature.
Yeah, and potentially next turn, we have the Royal Science Pump, the Teamer Battle Rage, and John, depending on Jeremy's draw, can take this game on the last possible turn of turns.
I think he drew a land. He did. Misty Rainforest. Passes the turn back to John Holland. We go to turn 4.
Yes. We do get to see a resolution.
John Holland got a plus onto Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage 4. Teamer Battle Rage.
Oh,
and
wow.
that is going to do it.
What a finish.
John Holland takes down Jeremy Bertarioni 2-1 in, honestly, one of the best matches of Magic I've seen in my time.